second part of our recipe. Here are the cakes that have been cooled and they've come out just right, just almost to the top of the cases, so that's just perfect for icing. I've been asked to show how to make a buttercream, so that's what I'm going to do now. First thing I'm going to do is get my butter, which has already been softened. This is slightly salted butter. It's a very subtle amount of salt. You wouldn't want salted butter, either unsalted or lightly salted is fine. Again, it's personal taste really, but I find this works best. I haven't put this in the microwave this time. If you're making cream cheese frosting, which is half and half butter and cream cheese, you can soften the butter in the microwave. But if you're just using butter, sometimes it can curdle once you add the icing sugar to it if you use the microwave oven to soften it. So best just to use it as is. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to begin by giving the butter a whisk so that it's already a bit more softened. So you're probably not going to hear me for a bit, so I'll just be quiet when I do this. Okay, so that's just nice and soft. It's going to be easier to get the icing sugar incorporated into it. And now I'm going to add our vanilla extract. Using very good quality vanilla, as you can see. Okay, so I'm going to put the lid on because I have occasionally managed to knock the bottle over and it is rather expensive to go to waste. So, now the butter and vanilla are mixed in together. I'm going to add the icing sugar. Now I may well disappear in a puff of icing smoke now, so do bear with me. I'm not going to add it all. This is a good big bowl, but it probably is still going to sort of puff up quite a lot. So I'm adding about half the pack. Okay, so that's really starting to look like icing. I'm going to add some more icing sugar. Kind of going to get in as much as I can really. This means that it sort of dries nice and firm once you've iced it, and it also, so it holds its shape better, and it's also, well, most people like the taste of it, it's very sweet. Okay, so I've got a tiny bit left. I'm just going to add the end of the box there. So we've basically got a 250 gram pack of softened butter, and we're adding to that 500 grams of icing sugar, so it's basically double the quantity. If you do want a less sweet icing, you can add 250 grams of icing sugar, but you may find that it doesn't hold quite so well when you come to the piping, but it's up to you. Again, this is all about how you like things to taste. Okay, so that's mixed in. I'm going to add a little bit of colour to it. Now you can add some milk if you want it slightly softer consistency, but I quite like working with it like this, because you do find that as you're piping and using a bag, that the mixture will gradually soften up because of the warmth of your hands with the butter. So this has made rather a vibrant pale blue colour, and now we are ready to do some piping. So here I've got disposable piping bags. You can use a fabric piping bag instead, but these are really convenient, and you can just chuck them in the bin after you've finished. Now I've been asked to show what nozzles I use, so I'm going to give you some of the ones that I use the most. These are probably my two favourites. This is a Attico 844. There's also an Attico 846, which is slightly larger, which I use a lot as well. That's what it looks like at the end. It's got 7 teeth. I think 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, that one's got 6 teeth. I think perhaps the bigger one's got 7 teeth. And it sort of curves in at the top, you can see there. So that's great for piping roses and classic swirls. And then this one has got a lot more teeth, haven't actually counted how many, and it's more sort of jagged, zigzaggy, and this is an Attico 866. So those are probably the two I use the most. You can see getting the blue food colouring everywhere. It does tend to get all over the place. And this is colour paste as well, so I use colour paste rather than the liquid colour because it gives a more intense colour and it doesn't water the icing down. There are some others that I use here. That's an Attico 826, that's quite a versatile nozzle. And then I've got some of these ones which are quite interesting, that gives a kind of rosette effect or sort of quite a ripply or wavy kind of swirl. This actually comes in a set for about $10.99. I think there's 7 nozzles in the set, and this one comes in the set as well, although this isn't my favourite. It's better for doing like little ice gem effects than piping swirls because it's a bit too, you get a bit too thin a swirl from it. Hold the nozzle up against the bag to just see roughly where to cut it. So we don't want to cut so much off the bag that the nozzle falls through, or so little off the bag that the bag doesn't clear the teeth of the nozzle. And then you're going to drop the nozzle in. So that's about where you want the nozzle to come, about halfway, the bag to come about halfway along the nozzle. And then I'm going to turn the bag almost inside out so that when I start putting the icing into the bag, I don't get icing all over my hands. So it's got a bit of a skirt there, you can see. And then I'm just going to get plenty of icing in the bag. Just going to push the icing down. So the way that I hold my icing bag is I put a twist in the top of the bag. This is to ensure that the icing gets pushed down towards the nozzle and not up towards my hands. As I apply pressure and the icing comes out of the bag, I keep tightening that twist up. Now, I don't apply pressure with my left hand because if you start squeezing your left hand, you cut off the flow of icing. So I squeeze with my right hand. I kind of use the heel of my hand to apply the pressure, and then the left hand I use to guide the nozzle. I'm holding the nozzle vertical to the cake and I'm allowing some of the icing to come out, and now I'm beginning to pipe onto what I've already iced. So I've gone round and now I'm just catching the outside edge, just about 1 millimetre of what I'm piping, and it's going to look like an unfurling rose. Now I'm stopping applying pressure, still keeping my nozzle at the same height and pulling away so that you end up with a rose effect like that. The two most important things to think about when you're practicing icing is a consistent speed and a consistent amount of pressure. Also, make sure that you're hovering just above what you're piping. If you come down too low, you will cut into what you've already piped and you'll flatten out the nice swirl. And if you come up too high, you'll break the icing. So let's do this one again. It's really firm, this icing, because it's just been made and the butter hadn't been in the microwave, so I'm actually having to apply quite a lot of pressure to it. Because it's so firm, it's also kind of giving this slightly broken effect, which is actually rather nice because it's rather like the petals of the rose. I don't think that these cakes need an awful lot of decoration because they're so pretty as they are. You certainly don't want to start putting decorations in the centre of them, but these I think look rather pretty. And now I'm just going to sprinkle a tiny bit of pink. It's kind of glitter, but it's more like grains actually than the very fine glitter. And I just think this finishes them off beautifully. It just looks like a little bit of dew on the roses.